This is the final of the Magnus Carlsen Invitational between Anish Giri and Ian Nepom, Dutch #1 versus Russian #1. The video format will be this. We'll go through the best game, then I will look at the tie-break moments. 3 key tactical moments I'll look at, then I'll discuss the final standings at the end. In my opinion, this was the best game of the finals. Giri has white, Nepom has black. E4, C5, knight F3, E6, D4. We have the open Sicilian, take, knight C6, knight C3, queen C7, the Khan Sicilian or the Taimanov. Few ideas for black. You get your queen out early because you can recapture your knight with the queen. Set up your pawns in this way. Put a pawn on A6. Also a pawn on D6. Then you've got 2 pawns in the center, controlling lots of squares. And then the final idea, you can get this bishop out to B4, or it can just go to E7. Bishop E3, the point of this, you defend the knight, then the queen can move to F3, to D2, then you can castle queenside. A6, stopping any piece coming to B5, not attacking the queen. Giri now plays G4, very aggressive move, getting your kingside attack going straight away. The point of this is to stop black playing his very natural knight to F6, because you'll just go G5 to kick the knight away. H6 played, H4. Giri really wants to go for G5. Knight F6, G5 is not possible at the moment because take, and then the rook will attack the white rook. So, Giri trades first with knight takes knight. Taking back with a pawn, recapturing towards the center, trying to go D5. White plays queen F3 with a few ideas. You defend the rook, so then you can play G5, but also you are getting ready to castle. D5, strike in the center. G5, white gets on with it. Take. Rooks attack each other. Take. Knight is attacked, so black now plays knight G4. You don't want to play knight takes E4, because even though take, and then white can take back, in this position, white has a huge advantage. Queen is very well centralized. You got G6 in order to destroy the black pawn structure. White is ready to castle, and this bishop can occupy some very dangerous spots. It can go to H3, it can go to C4. So black does not want to take in the center. Black plays knight G4 to attack the bishop. White keeps it. Bishop B7 getting ready to castle queen H3. Attack the knight first. You can't castle yet because knight F2 was a threat, attacking both queen and rook. That's why white attacks the knight first, putting a question to it. The knight has to retreat, so it goes to E5. You can castle, you can attack the knight. White castles first. Black now decides to shut the center with D4. It looks okay for black to castle, but maybe there's a slight problem here. White might attack it with F4. Once the knight moves, you go F5, and with a move like this, you're attacking the pawn and the knight. So if you take, white is making progress here. Knight E5, you might go F6. There's a way for white to come through on the king side. D4. Black chooses to lock it up, and knight B1. Whenever you see this move being played, it looks like something has gone wrong for white. But the pawn structure has changed. The knight can actually come round outside to A3 to C4 later. So it is temporarily misplaced, but Giri can see many moves ahead. This knight can get back into the game. C5 played, so bishop attacks the center pawn. F4. You attack the pawn, but white will attack the knight. The knight goes to C6, giving white a chance to go G6, just blowing up the pawn structure here. Perhaps black could have gone knight G6. If you play that, then F5, knight E5, the game goes on. Looks like he will be chucking a pawn. Well, take, and then take. Perhaps black didn't really like this. Check. King is a bit exposed in this kind of position. The queen is stopping black castling, and the game can go on from here. I mean, it looks pretty dangerous. If this position did occur, you can put the rook on E1, lining up against bishop and rook and king. So pretty dangerous here. After f4, black now played knight c6. Question mark, you break up the structure with g6. If you take, then take. I mean, you attack the king, you're going to come back for the pawn, and this is totally crushing. You can go knight e7, holding on in this desperate way, but you can't castle, and your pawn structure is not healthy. Double pawns here, white has a very nice center. You're going to put your bishop on a good square. You decide, man. Maybe the bishop comes here or here, and the knight can reroute. The rook can even come here later. So after g6, black just castled. Taking on f7, take back. This pawn is now very weak, so Giri now gets another piece to attack it with bishop c4. King b8, black doesn't even defend it. If he did rook e8, then after f5, there is no good way to defend it. That pawn is going to drop using the pin, so black said, well, there's no way to keep it. So take, bishop c4, king b8, bishop takes pawn. Queen c7, 5 pawns for white, 4 pawns for black. Both sides have castled queenside. How does Giri finish this off? Well, let's have a look. He's only a pawn up, but can he win? He drops the bishop back to c4. King a7, knight a3. So knight defends bishop. When this bishop moves out the way, maybe you tuck back to b3 or to d3, then this knight can go to c4. Knight b4, bishop attacks pawn, so white now goes rook e1 to defend your strong center, and you give yourself the option to go forward. Bishop e7, finally this bishop comes back in the game. King b1, always sensible to put your king directly in front of your pawns. Rook e8, e5, controlling d6, f6. Bishop back to d8, bishop b3, now this knight can come to c4. g5, knight c4, coming into d6 as well, giving support to your central asset. Take, and looking at this position, we have knight, bishop, rook. Defending the pawn, bishop defends knight. This queen has been very useful, very aggressive here on this spot on h3, because white played g6 and then totally broke up the black structure. Knight to d5, attacking the bishop. Let's just retreat it to d2. Queen g7, attacking this pawn, but there's enough defending it. Knight into d6, attacking rook and bishop. Rook h8, attacking the queen. The queen can move right into the position with e6, blocking the pawn at the moment. Bishop h4, attacking the rook. Rook c1, knight c7, attacking the queen. Queen can drop back to c4, attacking the pawn. Now queen takes e5. When you play this capture, black is defending this pawn, but there is now a fork option with knight f7, attacking queen and rook. Queen goes to h2, the queen attacks this bishop, even though this knight attacks this rook. White can take the rook, but he throws in the check first. The king moves back, then he takes the pawn. In this position he can take. Maybe it was a bit unclear after this. Knight takes rook, queen takes d2. If the bishop can come back, it might look a bit scary for white. Knight g6, bishop g5. Let's keep the rook on f1, and maybe white has a threat of rook f8. Looks very dangerous. Bishop h6, the game goes on. It's not over until it's over. So Giri just play queen takes d4, let's say. Queen will attack the rook. And the cool thing is it defends the bishop as well. Rook goes to f8 to attack the knight, but it's got its defense from the bishop. Bishop f4, great move. Attacking queen and pinning knight to the king. Bishop g3, offering a trade. This bishop was so dangerous. Black blocks with his bishop. Take. And after queen b4, Giri won. Black resigned here because you're attacking the rook. There's just too much pressure on the king. Let's say we continued a bit. If you move the rook, then knight d6 is game over. Let's say you move the rook here, or anywhere. Doesn't actually matter. I don't think it has a good square. If you go to g8, knight d6, now we're threatening checkmate. You can't stop it. If you play queen g2, then you can grab the rook. That's the problem. You can't take because mate. If we look at the back rank here, there is no good square for the rook. even though it can go to many. Can't go here because still knight d6, can't go here, same thing, can't go in the corner. There is no good square for the rook. If you protect it, then knight d6, that's the problem. And actually there's no good square for the knight. Can't go there because bishop takes, and we're using the pin on the b file. So this is how Giri destroyed Ian in one of their games in the final. Now we go to 3 key tactical moments, then I will reveal who won the final. Rook e6, rook h3 has been played. This is now Giri with white, Jan with black. Jan has to win this game in order for it to go to blitz. Rook h3 has just been played. Attacking the queen, it looks like you have to retreat the queen, but no. Black is attacking this knight, and he can surprisingly take it. Rook takes knight, you give up the queen, but the point is after bishop takes g3, the queen cannot move anywhere. You will play rook e1 check, and when you get your queen back, you will be a piece up. What a tactical opportunity taken by Jan. If you move the queen to c1, let's say rook e1, you pin it to the king, and you will be a piece up. Giri has white, Jan has black in the first blitz game. Now if this is 1-1, then it goes to Armageddon. In this position, black played rook h7, which turns out to be a blunder. A better move is queen e8, because you actually stop the queen coming in. Notice in this position, white attacks the rook, but if you can attack the queen, offering a trade, then that will be more important. If you take, then you can now take with the rook, so this bishop no longer attacks that rook. But Jan played rook h7 instead, allowing Giri to bring his queen in to d7 with check. Block with the knight. If you move the king, then queen takes pawn check. The position totally collapses, because after this you will also take the knight. So black blocks with the knight, and bishop takes knight. Black's position is totally crumbling apart. If you take with the bishop, you lose the rook. If you take with the knight, rook f4 check means you will win the queen. So after bishop takes e7, queen takes e7 played, giving up the rook on c8. Bishop back to b6, knight f6, threatening queen g8 mate. Rook g7 to stop that queen h8 coming round to h5. Finding a way in. d3, queen h5 check. If you move the king back, then rook c8 check, and it's almost over. Black chose to block with rook g6, and after rook g4, there is no good way to defend this rook. So Giri won the first game. Queen takes g6 is next. And the final key moment in the rapid game. Jan now has white, so he has to win this game. The opening has not gone well for Jan. Doubled pawns. Black has a very strong knight in the center, offering a trade of knights. If white takes, then this pawn is just so weak. Black has a great position here. White chose to keep the knight with knight d2, but this is a blunder because Giri can now attack it with bishop g5. If you defend the knight, then bishop takes d2, rook takes d2, knight f3 check, attacking the king and the rook. That's why in this position, bishop takes d4, bishop takes d2, move the rook, take, and black has a wonderful position. Terrible bishop against amazing knight. That knight can now sit on c5. It's a perfect minor piece. You cannot attack it. It is an outpost for the knight. Bishop d3, rook d6. Let's see the rest. Rook e2, rook a6. Rook comes in to attack a4. Queen comes out, f6. Wonderful pawn chain here. There's no attack for white. Queen h5, rook a3. Rook and knight now attack the bishop. Rook d2 to defend, queen a5 attacks the rook. Rook back to d1, and from this sequence it attacks the rook, but Giri had queen and rook attacking this as well. So rook back to d1, winning that pawn. Rook b1, Ian has to keep pieces on because he has to win this game. queen back to c7, rook f1, trying to go f4, you got to try something. Rook back to a5, it's done its job, it's going to come back into the game, queen g4, rook a3. So it comes to a3 now because knight and rook attack this. So f4, take, 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 take. So he's down 2 pawns now. e5, rook e3, queen g2, queen c6 offering a trade, queen d5, check. Trading in white's terms, so then he gets a pawn in the center, but black is just going to be up too many pawns after f takes e5. Take on b7, he takes f4. Black is just so many pawns up. 5 pawns to 2. He is 3 pawns up. Let's see the rest. f3, king f2, check, king f1, rook e5. Cool move because after rook c7, 2 rooks on the 7 look very dangerous, but Giri is just defending from the front with rook g5. It's a great move in a rook ending. You defend from the front and also you've got attacking options as well. It's an attacker and a defender at the same time. h4, rook g4, no change. King f2, check. King f1 and a really cool, stylish finish. It looks like you might have to move the rook. Then you can play f2. Then you can bring the rook back to g1 with check. But just finish in style. This is exactly what Anish Giri did. f2, game over. Jan resigned because this is now a threat, and if you take the rook, then you get a queen, and it's just checkmate in a few moves. King g3, let's say. You can just bring the rook in, check, check. And we got mate. Got a few mates, that's mate. You can also bring the queen back to g6, that is also mate. This is how Anish Giri won the Magnus Carlsen Invitational. So, Anish Giri is the winner. Jan Nepom comes in 2nd place. 3rd place, Magnus Carlsen, because he won his match against Wesley So. Therefore, Wesley is 4th. Thanks a lot for watching all the way until the end. If you enjoyed this video, why not give it a like and subscribe to the channel at the same time. If you press the bell, that means YouTube will let you know when I release a new video. Have a nice week, and I'll see you later.